This is Seclo Sounds, and you can listen to us by clicking Listen Live on our homepage at seclosounds.org for a choice of players. Via TuneIn Radio at www.tunein.com, search for Seclo Sounds and listen online or download the TuneIn app. You can download the Seclo Sounds iPhone app from the iTunes App Store, and you can listen to us on demand at our replay page.
Still to come on the show, there's travel news, including a story about Gatwick and Heathrow and their rival plans for expansion. But at the moment, we've got to the B of my A to B on travel this week, and that's Botswana. As you can probably guess from the name, it's in Africa. I haven't been to Botswana. Again, it's on my long list of places to go and visit. I do like safaris, so Botswana does seem the ideal place to go, especially as Kenya's difficult to get to at the moment with all the trouble over there. But anyway, this is an interview I recorded with Parr, who represents Botswana in the UK. And we're going to start off by finding out the basics about the country and how to get there and what to see and do.
Dawn, whereabouts is Botswana?
Botswana is in southern Africa. It's really in the centre of the subcontinent. And we're surrounded by South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe and Zambia. So we don't have a coastline.
Mm-hmm. Is it split into any regions?
I wouldn't say regions as such, although we do have different habitats. There are really 5 different landscapes, is what I would say,
okay.
Which are very different from each other. So some are very watery and some are very dry. Mm-hmm. And it's quite an interesting difference to go and visit many of the different types.
What's the brief history of Botswana?
This is actually quite interesting. Botswana, up until the mid-1800s, was one of the poorest nations in Africa. They lived in a tribal system, and the main industry was beef cattle.
Right.
At the end of the 1800s, the Boers from southern Africa were trying to take over the country of Botswana, which incidentally then was called Bechuana land. Mm-hmm. And the 3 main chiefs from the country decided that they wanted some help. So they got on a boat and they sailed all the way to the UK, bearing in mind this is 1880, and they sought an audience with Queen Victoria. And when they had their audience with her, they asked her to protect the country. And so Bechuana land, as it was then, became a British protectorate. They were never a colony as such, they were a protectorate. And that went right the way through until the 1960s, when in 1966 they decided to ask for independence. And we granted them independence, and their first president was a gentleman called Seretse Khama. And since then they have developed because they found diamonds. So very luckily they became quite a rich nation now.
Diamonds, that's very lucky.
It is incredibly lucky, seeing as it was the year after they got their independence from us. So
maybe it wouldn't have happened if it was the year before. Who knows?
Well, you do wonder, but to be fair, they've really used the money from diamonds very, very successfully. Mm-hmm. The government has put all of the money they get from diamonds back into the country. And so all of the people of Botswana now have free education, free health care. They've managed to put money into road structures and, other infrastructure. And so it's actually been developed in a very, very good way. So
you don't often hear that, do you, when diamonds get discovered?
Exactly right. And I think it's just really down to the government, who were very keen that they should share the money with the people of Botswana. And so, everyone is well educated and, has opportunities, which is a really great thing to hear of Africa.
Yes, I already sound like I want to emigrate there. You mentioned there's 5 different, not regions, but types of areas, landscapes. But what's the climate like?
The climate is very good, really. If you bear in mind, down south, they're obviously the opposite way round to us. So they have their winter during the months of sort of May to September. Mm-hmm. And during those months, it's very, very dry. The temperature does drop, particularly at night. It can go to even minus. So it can be -1, -2. During the day in those months, it'll be around about sort of 20 to 25 degrees, that is. And during their winter months, their summer months, that's me getting it wrong. During their summer months, it's which is sort of October through to February or March. It tends to be very, very hot. Can go up to sort of 35 degrees during the day. And it's also their rainy season.
So you're best off going in their winter season?
To be honest, any time of the year is a good time of year to go. Most people are obviously going there for a safari. And for a safari, you want to see the wildlife. So when it's very, very dry, that's a great time because the animals need to come in to drink water from the water holes. But people who are like birds, the birders, the actual months between November and February are really, really good because all the migrant birds come down to Africa to breed. It's also an interesting time because that's when all the antelope and all the other animals are having their babies. So sad to say, it's also a great time to see predators, the lions and the cheetah and things like that, who are obviously following the antelope herds.
Okay. We'll get on to safaris in a little bit long in a while, but how long does it take to get to there from the UK, and is there a direct flight?
Sadly, there isn't a direct flight from the UK at the moment. The main way people go is either via Johannesburg or Cape Town. It's about a 12-hour flight to either of those from London. And then there's about an hour, between an hour to 2 hours flight into Botswana, depending on which exact destination you go to.
I guess it's kind of like getting to Namibia, I guess.
Almost identical to getting to Namibia.
You can contact us or just keep up to date with travel news at facebook.com/John Guinn Travel Show.
This is Seclo Sounds, your community radio station. If you'd like to volunteer some of your time and skills with Seclo Sounds, send an email to volunteers@seclosounds.org and let us know how you would like to be involved. MK Flyers Online, the fast and simple way to find any kind of business or service locally. Find us at mkflyersonline.co.uk or download the MK Flyers mobile app from your app store. MK Flyers Online proudly supports Seclo Sounds, community radio for Milton Keynes.
The John Guinn Travel Show. Checking it out before you check in on seclosounds.org. Still to come on the show, there's travel news, including a story about package travel regulations, and EU are having another look at this. But at the moment, I'm speaking to Parr, who represents Botswana. You may never have come across anybody who's ever visited the country, and there is a reason for that, and we're going to find out right now what that reason is.
Is it really on the British Safari Watchers' radar, or is it an emerging country?
To be honest, it is on the radar of people who really like safaris. Most people would say it's the ultimate safari destination, but we've tried to keep it a little bit quiet. We restrict the number of people who can go to Botswana by restricting the number of beds available. So very few people actually get to go, which makes it also quite an exclusive destination. And I think once you go to Botswana on safari, you probably won't want to go anywhere else.
So you've got restrictions on the beds. Is there any other entry requirements, such as visas?
No. All EU nationals don't need a visa to get there. The only thing you do need is to have 2 clear pages in your passport, so that they can obviously stamp it. But other than that, no restrictions whatsoever.
There's a length of expiry date on the passport, 6 months or?
It is 6 months, but they don't take that quite so literally, I have to say.
Okay.
It's better if you have got 6 months, but it's not absolutely necessary.
As long as you've got your 2 clear pages.
Exactly.
I've been to Kenya and I've had to have a few jabs. Are there any jabs and other medication that's required before you go?
No, we're very, very lucky. You don't need any inoculations or jabs at all. Obviously, I'd recommend that people have the normal ones you'd have for the UK,
Yep.
the sort of tetanus and things like that. The only thing we do have is it is a malarial zone. So it's best to check with your doctor or your GP before you go to exactly what malaria tablets you'll need to take.
That's good. I wish I'd known that. I would have gone there instead of Kenya. It's like a pincushion by the time they finished.
I know some of the African countries can be quite difficult, can't they? But we're very, very fortunate that we don't have any of those nasty diseases at the moment.
I had to have yellow fever, and I'm ashamed to say I fainted. Yeah, a big guy like me, and I collapsed. But never mind. It lasts 10 years.
It's the needles, you know.
Yeah, I think it was just one needle too many. You mentioned it as a British protectorate.
Yep.
Does that mean English is one of the official languages, or is there other languages?
Yeah, English is the official language, so everybody in Botswana speaks English, which makes it nice and easy for us to go visit. But the local language is something called Setswana, and you will hear that spoken amongst the locals. There's also a Bushman click language, so if you're lucky enough to make a visit and go and visit the Bushmen, you'll just hear them talking in a range of clicks, which they make obviously with their mouths, and it's very fast language, but I've no idea what they say.
I'll have to check Rosetta Stone and see if they do a course on it. Is it easy to get around once you're there?
Definitely. Most people who go there don't want to do a self-drive or do it themselves. So you would normally go with a company, and they will take you around. Because of the vast distances, Botswana is about the size of France, so that means it's quite a large country. And to get to between the different areas, most people will actually fly using quite small planes. So between each. But it's very easy. It's all laid on, it's all organised, so not a problem at all.
Didn't realise it was that big.
Absolutely.
I've got a long question now. Loads of questions in one.
Okay.
Botswana's apparently 38% of it is national parks.
Yep.
Does it mean it's just a safari destination? If there is safari parks, how many are there? What size are they? And are there any other must-sees and do's? There you go. A long question.
A long question. I shall try and keep your answer short then. Yes, Botswana has 38% of the country as national parks. The government decided that they wanted to protect the wilderness and the wildlife, and so nobody is allowed to destroy the habitats. Botswana is a safari destination because as of 1966, when they got independence, there really was nothing else there. So they don't have any historic buildings or archaeological sites as such. So it really is a safari destination. There are 5 major parks. The one that most people will have heard of is the Okavango Delta, which is up in the northwest of the country. It's a water destination and has all the big 5 there. The other ones are the Central Kalahari Game Reserve, right in the middle of the country, a desert destination. The Makharakari Salt Pans. Don't ask me to spell that one.
Don't ask me to say it.
Which basically is one of the largest salt pans in the world. There's the Chobe National Park, which is where we have most of our elephants. Botswana has over 155,000 elephants in the country, and around 60,000 of those are in the Chobe National Park. And the other one really is the Kalahari Transfrontier Park, which crosses the border between us and South Africa. And you can go in between both countries inside the park without having to do any of the immigration requirements.
Okay, that sounds a bit unusual.
It was actually one of the first transfrontier parks set up in Africa. And as I say, it means you can go in on one side in one country, travel all around the park, crossing over the border, and as long as you come back out the same way as you went in, you don't have to do any of the immigration. If you go out the other side in the other country, then you will have to.
Okay. That's okay then.